All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to this special event in which we present information for present and future Bentham Science ambassadors. So if you're joining us today and you'd like to learn more about Bentham Science, well, you're in the right place. If you're joining us today, you are already a Bentham Science ambassador. Well, you're in the right place, and potentially if you would like to become a Bentham Science ambassador in the future, then you're also in the right place. Or indeed, if you just like to learn some more information about the mechanics of article submission and article publication, then again, you're in the right place. Good day, good evening, good morning. My name's Gareth Dyke. I'll be your host for this special Bentham Science webinar event jointly hosted with SciTrain. So thanks once again for joining us. It's a special event for current and future Bentham Science brand ambassadors. So let's get started. I can see that our colleagues joining us from all over the world. Why don't you give us some information about where you are joining us from? The chat box should be open and you should be able to put a little bit of information about yourself into the chat box so we can learn where you're from. My name's Gareth, as I mentioned already, and I'm joining the event today from Hungary, from Budapest in Hungary. So do let us know, do give us some information about yourself at the end of our event today. Of course, there will be an opportunity for questions as we move through our presentation. Do give us some information about where you're from. That would be absolutely fantastic. Welcome everybody to our event. Today, we're going to be talking about submission and publication. We would love your questions and comments. If you are already a Bentham ambassador, we will be exploring the benefits that you can enjoy. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. And if you're not yet a Bentham Science ambassador, well, why don't you click on the link that you can see here on the screen, benthamambassadors.com. You can learn there more information about how that process can be beneficial to you and to your research. Do let us know where you're from. We'd love to hear from you. If you're joining us today, I can see colleagues from all around the world jumping into the webinar event. I'm Gareth, and we're going to be talking about the mechanics of submission and publication in our event today. Do share your comments in the chat box. Where are you joining from? As we've already talked about, are you looking for a journal for your next paper? We are here, of course, to help. Wonderful to see you. Would you like to get involved in the publication, in the editing, in the development of Bentham thematic issues? Or perhaps you'd like to learn more about discounts and benefits for Bentham ambassadors. We will, of course, be providing lots more information over the course of this event today. As I mentioned, Gareth Dyke is my name. Do get in touch with us. Do share any and all comments that you may have in the chat box. You're probably asking yourself, what are we going to be talking about in our event today? What is the agenda for the next half an hour, 40 minutes or so, as we talk through all of the benefits of Bentham Science publishers? We're going to first talk about effective journal selection, very topical information. Bentham manuscript processing system, we'll talk a little bit about that as well. I will also, in this event today, give you some more information about Bentham journals, how, why, where, which Bentham journals there are, and why it's a fantastic idea to consider a Bentham Science journal for your next research article. We'll also, at the end of our event today as well, provide you with more information about why it's so great, so fantastic, so fortuitous to become a Bentham Science ambassador. So, effective journal selection and journal submission, the Bentham MPS platform, a little bit more information about Bentham journals, and some information about Bentham ambassadors. And I can see colleagues from India, Berlin, from Serbia, from Morocco, from Egypt. Don't be shy if you're listening to this event. Do give us more information about who you are and where you come from. We love to learn more about you at Bentham Science. But let's dive in. Let's begin our event today by talking a little bit about effective journal submission, because as academics, as researchers, it can be a little bit confusing. I know, I've been there myself. Who am I talking to at a journal? Who's who and what's what? So with this in mind, we put together a bit of a handy field guide for you to understand better who you might be talking to at academic journals. It could be the journal managing editor. It could be an academic editor. It could be a language editor. And you, the author, often get very confused because, of course, in English, we use the term editor to refer to a number of different kinds of people that you might interact with in the journal writing and publishing process. At the journal, you might interact with an academic editor, somebody making decisions about whether or not to send your paper out for peer review. Above them, in the business side of things, at the journal, at the publisher itself, there will be an editor managing a group of journals or managing all of the journals in a particular subject area, earth sciences, medical sciences, and so on. And then, of course, you may also, especially if English is not your native language, interact with somebody that we call the language editor, somebody like me who might be working on your paper, helping you to improve the English. So initially, we find that there's lots of confusion amongst authors out there around the use of this term editor. Who you're actually going to be talking to at the journal can be confusing. And here it is again, the editor-in-chief, making those final decisions about what might happen to articles, their fate during and after peer review. Underneath them sit associate editors, potentially, looking after different subject areas within a journal, within a family of journals. They may be responsible for finding reviewers or managing the peer review process, making recommendations to the editor-in-chief. You can see how it might work. Peer reviewers, of course, and perhaps you've recently been invited or are about to be invited to become a peer reviewer working for a journal, doing a piece of work for an associate editor or an editor-in-chief. All of these different categories of people are potentially people who you might interact with during the manuscript submission process. You might talk to the editor-in-chief. You might be talking just to an associate editor. You'll, of course, be dealing, if the peer review process is open, and it's not at Bentham, but if it is at many other publishers, many other journals, you will know who the peer reviewers are. And of course, also interactions with the editorial review board. Who does what in the process? And we just put these slides together to give you more information to help you understand who you're talking to and what the outcomes might be at the different stages of the process. Because of course, if you submit a paper to a journal, it goes through a number of different stages in the process of peer review. The first stage is triage. And that's where the editor or the editor-in-chief, those people that we saw on the previous slide, are making decisions about what should happen with the paper. Should it be rejected or should it be sent out for peer review, external review? And of course, at higher impact factor journals, many of the Bentham journals, Nature, Science, those big journals in science, in the field, many papers get rejected before they get sent out for peer review. This triage stage that journals go through to decide whether something should or should not be sent out for peer review in the first place. External review, we want to get into that. We want our papers to be sent out for peer review if at all possible. That's, important for researchers. Your paper is having a chance after peer review of getting published. Of course, the paper will come back with peer reviews, with your comments, with your responses. And then, of course, we enter that stage 3, that editorial decision phase. Many papers get rejected after peer review. Many papers get sent back to the author for further revisions, and the cycle goes on, the cycle continues, but hopefully, at the end of the day, your excellent, fantastic, amazing piece of research will be published in a leading journal. And we certainly do hope that that will be a Bentham journal. But at step 1, in the article submission process, at editorial triage, as we like to call it, desk editors, managing editors, or editors-in-chief at smaller journals will be looking at your submitted work, and they will be thinking, does this work fit with the journal's scope? Does the work have a clear message? Is the work original? Is it important? Is it relevant to our journal's readers? Are the papers from our journal cited? This is important as well, because this can be something that editors look at to decide if a submission is interesting, important, and relevant to that particular journal. Is the author citing papers previously published in that journal? And of course, did you follow the journal instructions? So a quick checklist for you. If you're thinking about making a submission to a journal, it's definitely worth having a look at these steps, these quick things in our quick submission checklist to make sure that you haven't gone over the line, that you do have the best chance of passing that initial editorial triage stage, and the paper will end up going out for peer review. Don't forget that you do have to sell yourself and sell your work to get it through editorial triage. Many journals, especially those higher impact factor ones, they do want to maintain those high rejection rates, part of the way that impact factors get calculated, by the way. So do have a look at this. If you'd like more information, do have a look at our website, scitrain.com. If you'd like to learn more, we have entire webinars and workshops on all of these issues. Managing the article submission process, making sure that your paper has the highest possible chance of acceptance after peer review. Of course, you may get what we call a desk rejection. Unfortunately, this happens all the time. A paper submitted to a journal, the editor, the desk editor, the editorial team decides that the paper is not suitable for that journal, should not go out for peer review. It might not be of high enough significance. It might be not within the journal's aims and scopes. So desk rejection without review. Did your abstract fail to sell the paper? Was your paper hard to understand? Was there a fatal mistake, a fatal error? Have a think about these things, of course, before you consider sending the paper off to another journal. But of course, this process is positive, and we should never really get too dejected and downhearted if our paper does get desk rejected before peer review, because this is speeding up the process. It's a good thing. Rejection in 1 to 2 weeks rather than 1 to 2 months. So that could be a good thing. And that should be something that you think, well, at least I know that this is something that I can do with the paper. I can send it off to another journal. You may wish to go back to the editor and request a reconsideration. This may be appropriate on some occasions. Perhaps you feel that you've been unfairly treated. That's something that we'll talk about a little bit later on in our event today. Always be polite, be respectful, and of course you'll need to have a strong case to make to that editor-in-chief if you do think the paper should be sent out for peer review at this particular journal. But this is a good thing. Obviously, it's going to feel a bit negative. You're going to feel a bit rejected, but at least you found out early in the process, which is, of course, better than finding out later in the process. But do have a look at this little checklist that we put together. 10 traits that will help you get your paper accepted. And these are important to keep in mind. Have you paid attention to detail? Have you appropriately considered the journal that you're submitting to? if you do get review comments back, have you considered them in enough detail? Have you really considered them in enough detail? Is your English good? Is it as fantastic as possible? And of course, if you need help with English, do get in touch with us at scitrain.com. We'd love to help you with that as well. Are your ideas clearly and concisely presented? Have you taken the proper time with revisions? Appropriate acknowledgements? Is your work new and original? Have you critically evaluated your own work? And of course, if appropriate, are all of the ethical guidelines followed? Don't forget to have a look at these before you make your next submission. I see some great comments in the chat. We're going to be having a Q&A a little bit later, of course. Everybody will be getting a recording of this event, so don't worry, you'll be able to listen back as many times as you like. Use this recording to put your kids to sleep, to scare the pets, I don't know, but you will get a recording of this event. Thank you so much for joining us. Traits that will get you excited. Let's move on. Let's have a look now at a trick that we do have up our sleeves at Bentham Science, at SciTrain, which can be used to speed up the process. And we do recommend that you do this. If you've got a piece of work finished and it's ready to go, or even a paper that you think you might be starting to write up, but you know the results, you know some of the outcomes, it's a great idea to write what we call a pre-submission inquiry to a journal editor or to a number of journal editors. Really, really, really a very good idea, because this again can speed up the process. You write to editors when you're getting going on writing the paper, or when you've got the paper at a later stage. Ask them if they think it would be a good idea. Would they like to see a submission from you on this particular topic? They will get back to you and they will be positive or they will be negative, and we'll give you an email template at the end of our event today that you can use to do this. But pre-submission inquiries are also a great way to speed up the process, the journey of your paper into what we hope will be an effective pre and peer review process. Here's a screenshot of that template. Don't forget, we'll email this to you. Don't worry. You'll get this within the next 24 hours after our event today in follow-up from the team at SciTrain. And of course, if you haven't looked at our fantastic website, scitrain.com, do jump on over and have a look, because what we do is we provide training events just like this one to researchers all around the world all of the time. So if you're thinking, well, I'd like some training for my research group, that would be absolutely fantastic. Do get in touch and we would be delighted to show up online and provide you with some training for your research team. Another way, in addition to pre-submission inquiries, that you can speed up the process of getting your work published as quickly as possible in the best journals possible is to consider the use of preprint platforms. What are they? Preprint platforms are online repositories for academic work. Research Square, Archive, BioArchive, MedArchive, the list goes on and on. You put your work onto one of these platforms before it goes into formal journal peer review when the work is finished, or even in an early stage, or you've done a conference presentation, for example. Before peer review and online publication, share your work with the community. Corrections will come back. Other researchers will give you feedback on your posted work. This can improve your work, it can improve your study, and it will also speed up the dissemination of your research. If we hadn't been using preprint platforms during the pandemic, we would not have developed vaccines, for example, as fast as we did. Your work will be shared fast with other interested researchers. Peer review can happen fast and open if appropriate. And of course, journals can come in and they can select articles from preprint platforms. But don't worry, of course, people worry about preprint platforms. Your work, your priority, your author intellectual property, these are protected on preprint platforms by things that we call Creative Commons licenses. You submit your work into a preprint platform, it gets stamped with a CC license, a Creative Commons license. Let's imagine you've just done a conference presentation. Put the slides on a preprint platform. Nobody can gazump you. Nobody can steal your ideas. Authors have concerns about these. CC licenses, of course, we can talk in much more detail about what the different kinds of CC licenses mean. If you publish with Bentham Open Access, we publish your work under a CC BY license. The work can be reused for non-commercial purposes by anyone. That's open access. And of course, on preprint platforms, your work can be fed back on by other researchers within the community. So a very good idea to speed up the dissemination of your research. We also put a lot of time and effort into recommendations around the creation of effective cover letters. When you make your submission to a journal, you don't want to waste the opportunity to sell your work to the editor. Don't write something boring. Don't write something dull and derivative. Please consider this paper for consideration in your esteemed journal. You've got to tell your editor why they should take your research seriously, why they should consider sending the work out for peer review. Be enthusiastic. Tell them the key message, the selling point, the take home, why the work is important, why it's suitable for that particular journal. Maximize your chances of success. Give your work the best possible chance of acceptance, of being sent out for peer review. Put time and energy into your cover letter. It's one of the first sections of a paper that an editor's going to read, so make it count. Why is your topic important? Why are the results significant? What's the key, the breakthrough? Why is this an advance on previous work? Why are you submitting to this journal? And of course, don't forget to put into your cover letter some suggestions for peer reviewers. Even if your journal, many journals don't want authors to suggest peer reviewers, even if that's the case, it still can be a good idea to put some suggestions into your cover letter in order to give the editor that opportunity. The editor may use those suggestions in their processing of the paper. So do give that some thought as well. As you put your cover letter together, this is what we get often. Nothing. People don't bother with a cover letter at all. Or they write something really boring like this. Dear editor, please find our paper enclosed, which we hope you will find interesting. What you want is something compelling, something that captures the editor's attention, something that sells the editor on your story. Why is it particularly appropriate for that journal? Why should people want to read it? Why should the editor want to send your paper out for peer review? Do put time and energy into a great cover letter. Journal selection, writing pre-submission inquiries, reaching out to people on preprint platforms, and making sure that you do have a great, effective cover letter is part of the strategy of speeding up your submission, speeding up the process of your article, getting the best chance of acceptance in that fantastic high impact factor journals. And when you write to editors, when you reach out to them, when you send them communications, be polite. Communication is everything. Hi, where's my paper? I've waited 2 months is a bad email. I'm writing to ask if I can do something to help speed up my recent submission to your journal. Can I make some suggestions for additional peer reviewers? Is a good email. It's polite. It's not aggressive. It's giving information to help the editor. Can I make some suggestions for peer reviewers? If you want to give your paper the best possible chance of acceptance, be polite. Take advantage of the tips, the hacks, the tricks that we present in our SciTrain webinars to speed up your article's journey through the peer review process, through editorial triage, through the peer review process, and out into the journal itself. So That's part one of our event today. We've talked a little bit about effective journal submission. I'm now going to give you a little bit of information about how things work at Bentham Science. We're going to talk a little bit about the Bentham Manuscript Processing System, the MPS system. It's absolutely fantastic because did you know at Bentham Science Publishers, one of the most robust peer review processes anywhere in academic publishing. Why is that? Well, the editors at journals do not have any control or any say over who gets to review the articles. Double-blind peer review is carried out on all Bentham article submissions by researchers who've been vetted by the team based on their background, their profile, and previous publications. Bentham peer reviewers sit within a pool of more than 60,000 researchers, active researchers who are ranked by performance, their speed, and peer review utility. No other publisher does this. No other publisher does this. So editors are not involved in peer reviewer selection. And what this does is it dramatically removes bias as well as the risks of research misconduct, where editors are selecting reviewers based on their own preferences. So this could be one important reason for you to choose Bentham, as well as something that you can tell to other people when you talk to them about Bentham. The editor-in-chief, of course, looks at papers that come into the system, in through the manuscript processing system, and makes a number of initial quality checks. First, the editor will determine whether the paper matches the aims and scope of the journal. Is the manuscript novel enough? They're making that initial decision. Should the paper be sent out for peer review? Then the automated system, the MPS system, takes over, sends the paper out for peer review, matches it with reviewers, off it goes out for peer review, the review reports come back, the editor-in-chief then gets to make a decision on the paper based on reviews. And of course, the authors are then also given the opportunity to revise their paper in light of these comments, and the editor then will make a final decision. People often ask us, though, of course, doesn't it take longer? Doesn't it take longer to conduct such robust peer review? And the answer is not necessarily. Even with such high quality standards, at Bentham we are usually able to complete peer review within 4 to 6 weeks, which is actually less than the industry average. You've probably been in a position where some journal peer review can take months and months and months. And of course, via the MPS system, we keep you up to date. We keep you well informed of your paper's progress. You can check online on the MPS system anytime you like to find out how your paper is. Isn't that fantastic? So the Bentham manuscript processing system, there's a dashboard. If you're a librarian or an institutional subscriber to Bentham Science content, you can keep track of everything that's going on via a dashboard. And here's the Imperial College London dashboard. Keep track of your submissions. So they have a subscription, a so-called read and publish subscription with Bentham Science. So all of their authors making submissions through this dashboard, somebody, the librarian, the project administrator, can keep track of what's going on, which is absolutely fabulous. The manuscript processing system provides guidelines for authors. You can track the progress of a manuscript publication at any stage. There's also training resources for system users. Peer review management, you can use the system to find suitable reviewers. And of course, there is as well a 24/7 support line, a support system provided by Bentham. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I've got a journal at my university and it would be absolutely brilliant to have that journal run using this system, then do get in touch with the Bentham team at the end of this event. I'll give you some information about that a little bit later. There's a journal finder, which helps authors find a journal for their paper. There's a subject expert database, a record of peer reviewers organized by subject expertise. And there's a reporting system for journal managers, which allows those journal managers to see the status of all articles at various stages of the publication process. So as you can see, this is not just a platform that deals with submissions. You'll interact with it if you're an author, but it's also a platform that allows the comprehensive management of journals by universities or by publishers, let's say. And there are alerts, a notice board, an online support function through live chat, a global search function, and of course, as well, an offline ticket system to help you manage your interactions with the Bentham MPS system. Here's what it looks like in case you were wondering, the different portals that people interact with. If you'd like more information about this, do get in touch with us at the end of our event today. But it really is an absolutely fantastic workflow system for managing papers as they come in and they work their way through editorial triage, peer review, return, revise, reject, or accept, as we've talked about already at the earlier part of our event today. Dedicated portals are available for different types of users, authors, reviewers, journal managers, and so on and so forth. As I mentioned before, do get in touch with us if you'd like to learn any more information about how this system. We'd love to demo it. We'd love to show you how the Bentham manuscript processing system can be used to support your journal. If you're listening to this and you are a researcher, or you are somebody at a publishing company, or you have journals in your portfolio and you're looking for a way to manage them, then of course this system could very well be the ideal one for you. Right. We've talked about effective journal submission. We've talked about the Bentham MPS platform. Fantastic. Let's talk a little bit now about Bentham journals. Who are we? Who are Bentham Science? What do we do? And what do we publish? You will know this, of course, if you're already a Bentham ambassador, or maybe you're just here and you're going to get some information about Bentham. Anyway, Bentham was founded in 1993 by a very eminent leading organic chemist. So by scientists for science. Bentham is a growth publisher with 126 what we call traditional or hybrid journals and 39 open access, fully open access journals, as well as more than 1,400 ebooks, information solutions for researchers, Amsterdam, Singapore, and UAE based. Many of the journals have great impact factors, higher than 5, so a really great choice if you're thinking of a journal for your next paper. They're in Scopus, in Clarivate, in PubMed, in Cabell's. Great choice for you as a researcher, which of course you already know because you're attending this special ambassador event. Absolutely fantastic. These are high impact factor, well-indexed journals. Bentham has world-leading review journals in molecular medicine, drug metabolism, Alzheimer's disease research, cancer drug design, drug targets, medicinal chemistry. The list goes on. Indeed, 2 Bentham titles, current pharmaceutical design and current medicinal chemistry, are listed amongst the top 30 impact factor pharmaceutical journals. And if you have a look on the website, benthamscience.com, you'll see that six Nobel laureates, winners of Nobel Prizes in the past, endorse Bentham journals. So what better endorsements, what better recommendations could you get as a choice for a place to submit your next paper? If you'd like to learn more, do have a look at benthamscience.com or eurekaselect.com, where you can access the entire catalogue. You can learn more about what and how and which Bentham Science has to offer you as a researcher. Many great journals, many great books. So do have a look at that. 39 open access journals, fully open access under the brand Bentham Open. Do have a look at these as well if you're thinking or interested or gearing up to publish your work in an open access journal. And this is a way in which Bentham Science, of course, is participating in the open science movement, opening access to research around the world. Here's a list of those Bentham journals. You can see them here, the top 20 Bentham journals. Top of the list, Current Neuropharmacology with an impact factor of 5.3. The list goes down. I will, of course, share with you this recording. The SciTrain team will be in touch with this recording at the end of our event today, so you can have a look at this in more detail as a place, as a route, as a journal series for your next publication. As I mentioned already, featured in many of the top indices: Scopus, Clarivate, PubMed, Embase, Cabell's, and the list goes on. High quality journals for your next publication. Do have a look at these. Fantastic. I fully endorse, I fully recommend Bentham journals. And we are seeing some questions, which is absolutely fantastic. We will be coming back to the Q&A session in just a few moments. I do have those questions that you're putting into the chat. All Bentham open access articles are published in titles indexed in Scopus, are now also available on Science Direct. And this is also very important to keep in mind. All of the open access content can be accessed via Science Direct, a great partnership that we do have at Bentham Science that you should be aware of as a researcher. All of the content that's open access is there in Science Direct. So we've talked now about effective journal submission. We've talked about the Bentham MPS platform. We've talked a little bit about Bentham journals. Let me now give you some information about why it's a great idea to become a Bentham Science ambassador. What are the benefits of this? How can it help you? How can you become one? If you'd like to become a Bentham Science ambassador, well, step one is to click on the link that you can see on the screen, benthamambassadors.com, and register. Fill in a short registration form. And then, of course, once approved, you will officially become a member of the fantastic Bentham Science Ambassador Program. What does that involve? What does that avail you of? What will happen to you once you're in the Bentham Science Ambassador Program? Well, we ask you to recommend Bentham Science journals to libraries, universities, corporations, and other research facilities. We ask you to help us promote Bentham using journal catalogues, flyers, ebooks, and various other materials. And we invite you to invite your colleagues, other researchers, students, peers to contribute their work to Bentham Science journals. But you're probably asking, why should I do this? What's in it for me? Well, if you join the Bentham Science Ambassador Program, you'll get special discounts. You'll get reward points. You get certificates which you can add to your CV. And you, of course, are helping to spread research amongst the scientific community. Best of all, though, you get those discount points. You can build up those discount points. You can then use those for special offers. You can redeem those discount points at the Bentham Science website for special offers. When you invite peers, colleagues, and students, you get points. When you recommend your library institutes for free trials, you get points. When you promote Bentham Science at conferences or events, you get points. Those fantastic reward points from Bentham Science can be used to get a number of free gifts. And if you're listening to this and you're a librarian, or working within your university library, or you know a librarian, do scan the QR code that you can see on the screen here in front of you, because it will give you, your institution, a free 3-month trial to all of that fantastic Bentham Science journal and ebook content that we talked about before. A 3-month trial, obligation free, absolutely open, 40+ impact factor journals. You can empower your researchers. Discover cutting-edge research. Stay updated with new journals, new articles added to our Bentham Science journals each month. Evaluate usage with counter-compliant reports. Opt in for a subscription to continue accessing the fantastic content and expand your journal collection. So do have a scan of that QR code. It's absolutely fabulous. So you've got your points. You're building them up. How do you redeem them? Well, that's also easy. You go to benthamambassadors.com, you log in using your unique ID and password, and you click on Redeem Rewards. And then you choose the reward of your choice based on all of the fantastic work that you've done with us at Bentham Science. You get discounts on open access publishing. For example, as you can see here, one of the rewards that we offer is to allow you access to fantastic Bentham Science hybrid and open access journals at a reduced rate. You can get discount journal subscriptions by redeeming points, as you can see here, and these might be your personal subscription to a particular journal of interest. And don't forget, you'll get a recording of this event so you can listen back and learn more in the future. So how does it work? How do you become a Bentham ambassador, I hear you ask? Well, step one, click on the URL below, click register, benthamambassadors.com, fill in a short registration form, and then you're in the program, which is absolutely fantastic. We do recommend that everybody listening to this does just that. Join the Bentham Science Ambassadors program and join us for more of these free events. Today, we've talked about journal submission. We've talked about the Bentham MPS platform. We've talked about Bentham journals, the range of them, the different kinds, the different types, the different topics, where they're listed, how they're listed, and also how you can join the Bentham Science Ambassador program. And with that, I'll say, join us. Please follow us on these social media channels. That will be absolutely brilliant. Do get in touch. We'd love to hear more from you. And now we can have time for a Q&A. If you have any questions or any comments, do put them into the chat box. I'll try to answer them as best I can. I can see Ravi, Dr. Varala has already asked. The problem with Bentham journals is the journal acceptance to online publication with page numbers is taking a minimum 1 year on average. Request to increase number of issues or increase number of articles. So, well, this is about speed of publication, Ravi, and I'll pass this on to the journal team. I'll pass this back and we'll also be in touch with you personally to find out about your own experience and get any other feedback from you on that particular topic. Well, thank you everybody for all of the fantastic comments. I can see lots of questions also in the webinar chat. Can we get the slides? We don't provide slides, but we will give you a recording of this event so you can have a look at that. You can have a look at all of the content, so on. It's great to see so many people joining us from all over the world: Berlin, Morocco, Egypt, Georgia, India. Wow, fantastic. Uganda. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Absolutely brilliant. Do stay in touch. Do let us know if we can help. We would love to hear from you. We would love to stay in touch. And with that, I will say thank you so much, everybody, for listening to this event today. My name's Gareth. And this has been a Bentham Science webinar event hosted on behalf of Sidetrain for Bentham Science. Join us in our next one. Stay safe and talk to you soon.